So it was revealed a couple days ago with the Doge crew that USAID is spending a lot of our money in ways that we don't like. Conservative Christians, actually, you don't have to be a conservative Christian to have a problem with it. A lot of foreign interventionism just doesn't seem necessary, and you don't have to be a Christian to want a balanced budget and to stop upsetting people around the world. So there's been a lot of fighting about that. And, I'll do the Politico thing first. This is a tweet from Benny Johnson. So if he's a bad guy, I haven't seen it yet. He says, "This is the biggest scandal in news media history. No employee at Politico got paid yesterday. First time ever the company missed a pay period. This is a crisis." Now we learned Politico, a news company, which spent the last 10 years trying to destroy the MAGA movement, was being massively funded by USAID. Trump and Elon deleted their funding. Now Politico will go out of business. The corruption is endless. Good riddance. And so you have their filings actually, supposedly, unless this has been falsified, they were awarded $8.2 million. And money talks, So what is being alleged about USAID, and that not the only thing, but that there are certain things that the U.S. government it's not legal for it to do. So rather, they've been hiring non-governmental organizations, NGOs, to do it for them. And so you find this with censorship stuff, with social media. I think that's been substantiated pretty well. But also just anything around data collection or information dissemination in the United States. It's not legal for the federal government to engage in that sort of thing. But if they appropriate money to pay other people to do that, then they get what they want. And so what many people are suspecting the federal government wants is to destabilize the American population so that they can continue to grab more and more money and power and reward the people who are in charge, rather than Americans being able to unite in holding the government accountable and having a smaller government that can actually be, in some sense, watched over and controlled. So a lot, the biggest headlines are going to be the biggest dollar amounts thrown to the biggest agencies that have the biggest impact. We've talked about Catholic charities and Lutheran NGOs impacting the immigration situation. And it seems that they've gotten USAID support. But there are a lot of religious organizations that have gotten this money. And so I've got a couple posts for you to consider. The original here is from Megan Basham, who we prayed for yesterday. Christianity Today's 2023 IRS 990 confirms what others are finding: $1.8 million in government grants in 2023, yet they received nothing from the government in 2022. What's the big shift about? A lot of people noticed a leftward shift in their publications. Robert Gagnon reposted this tweet on Facebook. He said, "Many are saying that this $1.8 million in 2023 is from USAID. Regardless, this is undoubtedly money coming from the Biden government to promote a progressive Democrat electing Trump-hating version of the evangelical Christian faith just in time for this coming election." So the way I pitched it was, it's not a left-right thing, it's a destabilizing thing. And I don't think one is mutually exclusive of the other. I think there are a number of policies that the Democrat Party has known don't actually work, that they've been pushing forward very strongly since the 1960s for different reasons, and that rather than looking at a data-driven approach as to why those things don't work, they create this division and hostility so that it becomes a partisan divide rather than let's look at what actually works. Harris's so-called, they even published an article during the campaign extolling Kamala Harris's so-called faith. Yeah, faith whose two great idols were abortion and LGBTQ immorality, evil pagan faith. I love Gagnon. He says exactly what he means, and he backs it up. He's not just an ideologue. Also being reported, Redeeming Babel, founded by Russell Moore, David French, and Curtis Chang, took $308,000 from USAID-funded Rockefeller Foundation and $200K from Bill Kristol's Defending Democracy to push the after-party curriculum in churches. Why am I talking about this stuff? It's because we have to figure out what the truth is. We have to figure out how to participate in the world together. And if we're thinking that this world is real and this is just how people are, we are not going to be able to come to the world on right terms. We need to understand that what we're dealing with right now is a very synthetic situation that is largely dependent upon modern technology and convenience and wealth. It's not natural. And on top of that, it's been manufactured by the most powerful agency in the world, the U.S. federal government. We have to reckon with these powers and principalities. This is not a neutral playing ground. It was revealed, a decade ago that the U.S. federal government, the IRS, had been told to persecute right-leaning evangelical Christian organizations. This is something that there have been different chapters in. And if we continue to participate in this lie or this illusion that these powers and principalities are not regularly seeking to undo the gospel, that they are not hostile to it. This really is the impression I get. I listen to a lot of preachers preach as though they're engaging in with civilians. The people in pews are not civilians. They are warriors called to do spiritual warfare. Now, that's not, our enemies are not flesh and blood. They're the rulers and powers and principalities in the heavenly places. So you have to equip people to see the powers and principalities. How are you going to do warfare against something you can't even see? So we're being manipulated. They're doing warfare against us. And by us, I don't mean conservative, Republican, Christians, white people in America. I'm talking about Christians around the world, whether or not they're American, whether or not they're white. There are Christian virtues, Christian beliefs. I want to make a plug real quick. Pete Bellini and I are going to be doing our first installment today on holiness at 2 p.m. Central Time. Join us on that. We're going to be talking about how compromised our culture in particular has become on the issue of holiness, something that God calls us not to compromise on. We've compromised on fundamental things, and then we want to act as though our own dollars haven't been used against us to advance an ungodly agenda. This is what we saw in the United Methodist Church as a big bureaucracy was created that then used our own dollars against us. This is what we're finding in the federal government as well, that we're going into debt. The government is going into debt to declare spiritual warfare on us. And we have to answer in kind. When I say in kind, I mean not with flesh and blood. I mean with prayer, with fervent fasting, with shining a light on the dark places and naming them for what they are. There's one other tweet from Meg Basham. She says, I'm going to need a sequel. Apparently, she establishes that Revoice got some money from the government. There's been a concerted interest for a long time in the federal government messing with the church, through intermediaries, through money. It's been going on. The church needs to mobilize in a hostile fashion against the government intervening in any way. I couldn't be more pleased that this funding is now getting cut off because it's been used against us for too long. Good riddance. May we be starting on a new chapter where the integrity of the church is honored and respected and even feared by those who would harm us.